Hello everybody. Today we're here talking to Kirk Prosick,
Hello.
and today we're going to be talking about skepticism. And the question that we have at hand is, Kirk, why is it healthy to have a measure of skepticism?
Well, this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time because skepticism is a heavy part of my philosophy in general. And, I guess you could correlate it to different groups. Like there's scientific skepticism, there's philosophical skepticism, whatnot, and all of that kind of stuff works. But I'm mainly just talking about anything, really. Mainly just situations and things in life. I'll tell a story. Like I do videos on the channel that are sometimes based in mystery or based in things that are not fully known or comprehended 100%. And so one might think like, oh, like this guy, like he loves this kind of stuff, like he must believe. And I'll tell you, when I was younger, I so much wanted to believe all of this crazy mystical kind of stuff, whether that be aliens, Sasquatch, parallel universe, past and previous lives, and angels, and all of this kind of stuff, right? And it's not that I don't believe in anything. Like it's not that I don't believe in anything like this anymore. But I think that because a lot of people think that the skeptics are like boring, like they're very pessimistic and boring, and they're there to crush dreams. They're there to crush people's very meaningful experiences and very meaningful beliefs to them, and that they're there to just shred any hope out of anything. And I highly disagree. I think there's a lower class of skepticism that can be perceived that way, and there definitely are people that take it too over the top. But I actually think that skepticism is the route to wonder and the pathway to actually finding out what truly is mystic, in the sense where, because if you just believe in all of this stuff, and you can call that whatever you want, but if you just flat out believe in it, then you're open to so much disappointment. You're open to all of the sensitivity that might come with certain things not holding up to what the parameters of this belief or this situation is. And if you are skeptic about it and you don't believe everything right off the hop, and you question things and you put it up to the test, you see if it actually holds up. Like you go out of your way to shred it down. You go out of your way to completely disassemble it and strip it of the legend that it is, and just topple all of the foundation of all of it down. And if it still holds up, if there's still things that you can't explain about it, which there are many things that people are yet to explain, and I've experienced some things that I cannot explain, even when put up to the skeptic's test. But when you completely dismantle something like that, if it's still standing in some way, shape, or form, and you can't figure out exactly why, then I wouldn't even call it proof, but it's closer to proof that what you're seeking and what you really want to believe might actually exist, might actually be true, it might actually be real. Whereas if you just flat out believe in it and you refuse to look for any flaws in it, you refuse to look for any ways that it could be deconstructed in any way, shape, or form, like I am repeating again, but like I said, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're kind of always lying to yourself in a way, right? Whereas and like I said, the skeptics aren't these boring people that just want to crush dreams and stuff like that. I think we are truly trying to find what is truly unexplainable, what really is a mystery, what really is mystical or otherworldly or spiritual. We're really trying to find that, because I mean, at least when I talk about with me, myself, I'm not disappointed if something that I thought was really cool doesn't turn out to be real, or doesn't hold up against any sort of a test. I have the double benefit of enjoying it, of researching into it, of looking into it, of figuring it out, And if I still really like that thing, I don't have to discard it just because it's not real. I can enjoy all of those documentaries that have been made about it. I can enjoy those books that have been written about it, those movies that have been made about it. I can enjoy the company and the charisma or the spirituality of the people that firmly believe in it. And I can have nostalgia for a time when, I was once at that level. So I can still enjoy it. And if you're any sort of creative, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a writer, if you're an artist of any kind, you can still use that thing that you really liked and incorporate it into a story, into a documentary, into a movie, into a painting, whatever. But you're not bound to it anymore. You're not carrying it around like a ball and chain anymore. It is something that has been set free, and you can just enjoy it. If it's something that you still really like, even though it's been disproven, you can still just enjoy it and incorporate it into your creative life in some way, shape, or form. And if you put something right up to the skeptic's test, and it is, and you there, it does not become disproven, and it's still a mystery, well then, boy, you still have the fascination with that this could actually be real, that there could be something more to it than what you can actually see. There could be like this could be real, and even if it's not, it's unexplained yet, so that you still are like, wow, this could be this could come into fruition in some way, shape, or form. I really think it's healthy to think that way. I think it's a lot healthier than firmly believing in something, and it really truly is the pathway to what really is otherworldly or mystic.
A few hundred years ago, there was a philosopher named Rene Descartes, and he actually stripped away everything in order to do such an examination to determine what is real, and has made tremendous strides in the world of philosophy, into examining again what is real. So the question is, how do we determine what is real when we are at what point in the skeptic's journey does he uncover that something is real, and what are the ways that he is able to ascertain these types of conclusions?
Well, there are certain things that universally are unexplainable, and I think it's best to, you'll probably lose your mind if you try to tackle those things. But, and again, it's not even about 100%, like a scientific skeptic might take that route, but somebody that's just using it as a philosophy for life, I think that that it's not a matter of like holding up some sort of document or like some sort of documented paper or something like that saying like this is real, you cannot deny it. It's just a matter of like, hey, this strange kind of thing happened. My desires tell me that it's all of these fantastical, mythical, fairy tale like things. But I deliberately put that aside and go, well, that's lovely if that's the case. But I shred it down of all of that. I dismantle it completely. And if I can't disprove it, if I can't just say, oh, well, that was just a trick of some kind, or that those people were just saying that or doing that or aligning things that way for their own benefit in some way, shape, or form, or that phenomena in the world probably doesn't really exist. It's a trick of the light, or it's what people thought was a UFO was just a shooting star or something like that. If you can confidently say that within yourself, it's not that you 100% know the true answer, but if you can confidently say that with a straight face to most people anyway, unless they're at a way higher intellect than you, then, like I said, you do get the double benefit of enjoying it if you really like it. But then it's so much more of a phenomenal spiritual experience when you really strip everything of that fairy tale legend that it has to it, And yet there's still things that you can't answer. There's still structures of that fairy tale standing that you can't take down, and you can't find the knowledge, you can't find the science, you can't find the history or the philosophy to tear it down. It's still there. Then when you realize that, and especially if this is something important to you in some way, shape, or form, it's so much more gratifying and so much more spiritually fulfilling than if you just lie to yourself and refuse to tear it apart in any way, shape, or form, and just would rather just have this, you're not even really sure if it's false or if it's real, but just this constructed fish tank of inside of here's a fairy tale, and I don't want to break the glass, I don't want to take anything apart of this, I just want to leave it like that because it's so precious to me there.
So, in a matter of speaking, the person who acquires a belief about what they believe is real, they are, I don't know how I can say this. So they're going through their process and they're saying they're determining what is real. And you're saying that you want them to continue to be in a healthy state of asking questions and looking for, we'll say, even deeper truths. Is that something that I'm understanding here?
No, well, I don't yield 100% skepticism in that sense, too. I think any mindset can become unhealthy if abused, and I think that, like a mad scientist or something like that is somebody that goes over the top where no matter what, they will literally drive themselves insane, clawing at the dirt to try and just keep asking more and more questions and just unravel, even if there's nothing left to unravel. Like, they could walk away from that experiment and go, what's concluded is concluded, but they just keep digging at the sand, at the dirt. That is unhealthy. And I'm not saying that this is a perfect mindset and that it can't lead to that if it weren't to be kept in check. But I think that's how a lot of times the mainstream way that skepticism is looked at is either like that completely radical way, or it's like the boring businessman in a suit that walks in and says, oh, your invention won't work, or your story sucks, or you're never going to go anywhere, or this art isn't, nobody's going to pay any money for this art, or whatever. Like, people view the skeptic as that, and it can be too. But I think that just a regular, grounded, level person that's just simply incorporating the skeptic mindset into their life, in the sense where even if it's an art piece that they've done, and it emotionally resonates with them because it depicts a really fragile time in their life. It depicts something that is so real to them. But it's really healthy to ask the questions. It's like, okay, that's fine for me, but would anybody else feel the same way from looking at this? And even if they felt differently, would it be at as powerful of a level to them as it is me? Would anybody pay for this? Would anybody spend their hard-earned money on this? Would anybody keep this in mind for a gift for somebody that they care about, that they have their own story for? Was this really the best I could have done? Is this feeling, is this situation that I'm venting onto this film or onto this painting or music or whatever, is it really is it really real, or is it just something that I've told myself, right? And then the like I said, I'm repeating again, but then what is real spirituality in it is revealed, and what was you lying to yourself and wanting it to be a certain way is also revealed, which can be scary. But if you work through that, it's so much more healthier for you and so much more gratifying. And as I said also before, if you really just like it, you like the aesthetic of it, or it's still important to you, regardless of whether you proved it wrong, you can still enjoy it. You can still paint it. You can still film it. You can still try and sell it. You can still hang it in your own room and look at it. Right? Like, it doesn't have to go anywhere just because it's proven wrong.
Well, there was nothing that was proven wrong, because mostly you're discussing the opinions of others on what their perception is of, say, that piece of art. Whereas skepticism is much more to do with this sweep of believing in these, I don't know, these alternate realities. I can't think right now of the actual definition, so I'm going to just stop it there, and we can. So, skepticism is the disbelief in any claims of knowledge. Earlier,
of ultimate knowledge.
Of ultimate knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do we negotiate what you're saying with people's opinions or people's experiences? How do we bring skepticism to these experiences that other people are having?
Well, I'll break it down like this. You know the Skeptical Inquirer magazine? Have you ever heard of it before? A lot of people probably have.
I haven't.
Okay. It's basically, it's really, in this day and age, it's really veered heavily into science-based stuff, which is good. That's a whole other ballgame of its own. But that's great. But it started as a paranormal investigation magazine. And what was clever about what they did, and there's been some other docu-series and shows and whatnot that have taken this same approach, but what was really interesting about what they did was that they had witnesses of this, that, and the other. Anything you can think of that's paranormal, uncanny, or strange in some way, shape, or form. So they got the witnesses down. They got their stories, they got their opinions, their beliefs, all there. And they had, they had pretty much people of all different fields. They would have a scientist, a historian, an anthropologist, you name it, anything. If it's a photograph they were examining, they would have a photography expert. If it was a historical claim, they would have a historian on it. They would pretty much have one person that specialized in any sort of position or profession that this claim required to get to the bottom of, basically. And they had some that would come and join. They had a team of ones that worked there consistently. But what is actually, and I don't mean to trip on myself by saying ultimate knowledge, but what I feel like is the closest to ultimate knowledge that they achieved through skepticism is that not everything was disproven. Not everybody involved wanted to or completely hated the claim of this strange sort of thing in any sort of profession or position they were in to speak on it. But what they did was they had each person in each position come up with all of the things, that any flaw that they could see in this, they'd bring that up. Any question that came to their own knowledge, they would question that too. And it would sort of go around in a round table, and at the end of it, when they all put their stats down, it was like, okay, like, so, like, some things, like, yeah, like we got these experts can disprove what this person said, or what this photograph depicts, or what this belief entails, by using these experts in all of these different positions to question everything, put their intellect forward, and get to the bottom of it. But sometimes they couldn't fully do it. Sometimes they could deconstruct something just about almost, and it was completely just about disproven, but there was still a few things that were like, these couple of things don't quite add up, though. And sometimes they couldn't get any further than that. So they would have to say, okay, well, it's probably not exactly like this person said. There's probably some other things involved in it than just believing this person at face value, or these people, or this thing, whatever it is, at face value. But there's a few things that we can't get to the bottom of. There's a few things we can't fully put into words or describe or disprove. So there could be a shred of realism to this out there claim. And sometimes, they couldn't prove something, and it would be, our team cannot explain this. I don't think they would ever go forward and say this is real then, but they would say we can't explain it. We got the scientists, we got the historians, we got the photography expert. this, that, and the other, any profession you can think of that was required for this, we had the high paid professionals on this, and we couldn't come up with a 100% set in stone solution to how this could have came into fruition. So who knows? Maybe this one's real, guys. You never know, right? Like, what is that? Does that work, or what else could you have on you?
Well, I think about people of faith. We have different religions in the world, and they have faith. So the experts, as you talk about, even that, I'm actually quite skeptical about the experts, because things change so very quickly in the world, and we see the science of 20 years ago being shredded all the time. We see new things added to the tables of history that render, other history, I guess, lesser than, or even false, I guess, in some cases. And so I'm not really convinced that a panel of a few academics is going to really, set me free from, whether something is true or not. And I mentioned like something like, people of faith, they actually are having experiences all the time. And I'm sure if they were to be put up against these experts, the experts could, probably write a prescription and put them in a loony bin. And yet millions, if not billions of people are having experiences on faith alone. So how does that measure into a healthy view of disbelief in ultimate knowledge?
I wouldn't take it that route, Peter, actually, to tell you the truth. Sometimes that can happen, and historically especially, things like that went on. But I personally wouldn't take that route with it, because at the end of the day, what is faith? Why do people have faith? That's pretty unexplainable. I don't think any expert in any level can has ever fully been able to explain faith. They might be able to say, oh, well, it was brainwashing, or they were brought up on it, or something helped them at a really bad time in their life, so they cling on to it. And I'm sure that there's some legitimate things that can be explained about why somebody would come to have faith, that are very 100% grounded in reality and can be, that they're there. But yet it's never fully, like, I don't think anybody who isn't either completely crazy or incredibly dumb has ever said, I can hold up this paper, this is why you have faith. This is why faith exists. It's never happened. So this isn't to disprove or put any sort of, in my last interview, I was going on about how important faith is. So I'm not trying to explain anything that is in contradiction to it, because everything I say on camera here, I believe in some way, shape, or form. I'm not trying to contradict thoughts. But what I'm saying is that within yourself you can question it, and even if academics can't explain it away for you, you probably can yourself if you try, just within yourself, to question these things and why you think these things or feel these things, or why you even perceived what you've seen as that. And if you prove yourself wrong, like I said, back to what I said before, you have this double benefit of allowing yourself to enjoy it, but knowing it's not there. If it is still there, then you know that there's some legitimacy to it, so it can make you feel better ultimately. And also, there's so many things like that, especially emotional things. It's even like what we've all been talking about here, like faith and love and trust, and these different things that we've been humor, these different things that we've collaborated on these projects with. Those things, those heavily emotional things, I wouldn't even call them philosophy or anything really. They're very emotional things. Nobody who's ever explained humor? Even somebody that's been a comedian their whole life, has anybody ever said yeah, I know why people laugh. I know why people find this stuff funny. Like, this is, I have conclusive scientific and historical papers with me right now that if you read, you will know exactly why you laugh. You will know exactly why you love. You will know exactly why you have faith. It's never happened once in the history of mankind. So those things are legitimately unexplained. They're legitimately a mystery. And I think we can all take comfort in that because they're things that we take so seriously. And so it's actually, if you put it up to the test and you realize, I can maybe take a few individuals and say, oh, well, that person might have thought that way because of this, that, and the other, or that image or what that person's seen could have been this, that, or the other too. But there's still no explaining why that feeling exists in the first place. So that isn't a boring, or that isn't even academic. That's a really comforting thing, in my opinion, really, anyway. Everybody's different, which, why is everybody different? Nobody knows that either, but still everybody legitimately is different, and I think that the fact that these things are unexplainable gives not proof but heavy evidence towards them being legitimate and not manufactured, and is a very comforting thought.
It sounds to me like you are encouraging everybody to think for themselves and to ask questions regardless of the state where they're at on their on their journey. Am I right in that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, yeah. This is more of a, like, you have to use the academic stuff as an example, but this is more for people in their personal lives that I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not necessarily talking about the scientist or the whatever,
right,
or the religious person and all that stuff. I'm talking about just anybody, whoever you are, wherever you're from, anything that means enough to you that you feel that you need to get to the bottom of it one way or another, right?
Well, and I remember a number of years ago that I discovered that when I was asking people questions about their really any issue, I don't even have an issue per se, but I discovered that when I asked a priest a question, everything was filtered through the lens of God. When I asked, when I asked a lawyer, I'd get a legal opinion. When I asked a chemist, he, broke it down on how we're all just a bunch of, chemicals. When I asked a biologist, and so on and so forth. And so I find it interesting that they would assemble a bunch of these people who are so fixed in their position together in the hopes of finding a common language. So I'm actually questioning sort of the legitimacy of determining an answer based on bringing together a few so-called experts. That's for sure. And having said that, faith is also something that has a lot of questions. You're dealing in a very unknown world, really. And you are, in a sense, dealing with what you're feeling is ultimate existence and the ultimate questions of life. I'm just not sure, how we can, sort of look at it from any other way except this is our own perspective that has been informed, in a sense, by these experts who've written the books that we've studied in schools. I think that, maybe it's an attitude. Maybe skepticism is an attitude. Maybe it's a really healthy thing to, and by virtue of questioning it, in a way, you crack it open and maybe there's, more depth, to that. Because at the end of the day, we are all searching for what is real. And that's one of the pathways that we can get there, is by asking thought-provoking questions, which I think you're really pushing for, is getting people around to ask the questions, and but ultimately, when you take the any expert, when you go straight down the line and to determine what his conclusions are, seemingly it's always ending in mystery.
Fair enough, Peter.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you for now. Yeah. Hello.